Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Zane, and today I'll be presenting a project called Building an LLM-Powered Chatbot. Let's begin. So, a brief overview before we start and really dive into the specifics of LLMs. So, first, I'll introduce what exactly is an LLM. Then, I'll go into how LLMs and RAGs are correlated. And then, I'll introduce a subgenre of LLMs called chatbots. And finally, I'll show an implementation of a chatbot on a website. So an LLM is also known as a large language model. And this large language model is pretty much a type of machine learning model, which I'm sure all of you guys have heard about machine learning. Um, and this machine learning model can pretty much process and interpret human language and text and respond accordingly through an output. And these large language models can have more than 1 billion parameters, which is quite a bit. ChatGPT 2 has 1.5 billion, 3 has 175 billion, and finally, OpenAI's latest AI model, ChatGPT 4, has 1.8 trillion. Just to give you some context on how these parameters kind of actually are, each parameter kind of models how a neuron in a human brain works. And these connections between parameters are like synapses in the human brain. And the human brain has about 100 trillion synapses or connections. And yeah, that just kind of shows how close and so how close slowly, steadily these AI models are getting to how a human brain can actually work. So how does an LLM actually work? An LLM, although like on the surface you just see the output, there's a lot of steps behind the scenes that work to get this LLM to actually function. So the first step, which is like way before having an LLM, is to prepare your data set for training. And this data set just involves a lot of text, like terabytes of text, for this LLM to interpret. And step two is to process this data, which is again terabytes and terabytes, which is through tokenization, which is pretty much breaking this text of paragraphs or sentences into smaller and more manageable chunks for the LLM. And then step three is to have positional encodings embedded, which is pretty much just arranging these words in these tokens into more understandable and coherent things. So this is pretty much arranging words into a coherent sentence. And step four is to train the model, which is just feeding a lot of text and tokens into the model and just tweaking parameters, which is like you can do numeric parameters, and this will just tweak its output slightly until it's ideal. And finally, fine tuning, which is just fine tuning the model for specific process like a chatbot or any other sort of AI assisted thing. So some quick examples of some LLMs. So we all know pretty much OpenAI's ChatGPT. It's up to ChatGPT 4 now. Meta's Llama, Google's Gemini, which is a powerful AI, and then Claude, which is a little less well known, but yeah, it's still a very powerful AI like Gemini, ChatGPT, and Llama. So LLMs can do a lot of different things like translation, like Google Translate pretty much. You can ask it a sentence and it'll translate to you in another language. Chatbots, which we'll go over later, writing code like assisting programming language of programmers, medical diagnosis, which is a little little less helpful. You should probably just go to a doctor. Education, data analysis, and more. Unfortunately, there are some limitations of with LLMs and working with them. Sometimes like they kind of make up facts, like extrapolating facts. And this is pretty much just due to not having enough info for the LLM and not enough training data for it to respond accordingly. And sometimes it may respond with, I don't know how to do that or something, or it can just make up facts on its own. And also, in line with extrapolating facts, the training data that LLMs often have are pretty much a lot of times out of date, like decades out of date, years out of date. Either way, it's very bad for it, and it will just cause major problems in the future. So RAG is a process that kind of assists with how LLMs extrapolate facts. and allows these LLMs to access knowledge from outside sources other than its training data. So this pretty much just enhances its response and allows it to give a more coherent and also logical and knowledgeable response. It's also quite cost effective because we don't have to retrain the model. We can just add RAG to its knowledge base and it'll allow this LLM to have better responses. So it's quite simple and also pretty good. And so a quick diagram of how LLM and RAG kind of works. So first we have a prompt and query that goes into the chatbot. You type this onto your computer and it sends it to the chatbot. And then this query goes through a search where like the chatbot first interprets the data, then searches relevant information, and also consults some knowledge sources that are outside its training data. And finally, it feeds it back into the chatbot and generates a response. And so this chatbot that I've been talking about a lot is pretty much very helpful for large companies that have websites or like phone calls. And yeah, it allows for just customer service that is 24/7 and pretty much instant without the need for an agent that's always at their desk taking calls or responding to online messages. And yeah, it increases efficiency as well and just allows for self-service from the customers that may be more efficient than having an agent. And so our task was to build an LLM chatbot named DovesBot for this website, doves1.com, which is a dentistry site that sells dentist equipment. And so we used OpenAI.com and ChatGPT's API to create this thing. And we used the API to feed into genai.octopus.ai, which is pretty much creating a site for creating AIs. And then we could feed this chatbot and embed it onto the website of doves1.com and allow for text and audio input. And so using octopus.ai, we started and used this knowledge base that we already have that has the product information and other information for this dentistry website. And yeah, this is the RAG I was talking about. And this is how we allow this chatbot GPT-4 model to have very accurate responses based on the dentistry website. And finally, we would give it the answer from the query that the user wants. And this is an overview of DovesBot. You can see that it's already in service and ready to use. And we've embedded it onto this website, which you'll see right here. And you can see that the person is asking for products and the AI instantly responds with what's going on the website and what products do we have right now. These are the references that I've consulted and we've used to create this model and also create this presentation. Okay, and finally, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this talk and presentation, and I hope you all have a great day.